China has more or less been posturing to conquer all of Asia for decades now, and they're currently eyeing Taiwan. Russia has been icy hot since before Ukraine, sliding into Georgia's DMs in 2008. Israel is making another of many entries into their top 10 anime battles of all time compilation, with them being the star. The Middle East is a long standing war zone that we, the USA, helped make, and Africa has been a PvP zone since time immemorial. But the USA strikes Venezuela with a surgical attack that had as little civilian collateral as possible, and we're accused of greenlighting all wars ever? Absurd. Ridiculous. In fact, I'll ridicule it. Why is it that the USA is held to a higher standard than every other country? I'll grant you that our social media and art do act as a form of role model to the world, but it also requires others to idolize that role model, so it's unfair to pin any and all blame on the USA. And if no wars is the message we, as role models, are supposed to display, then I find it farcical that this is supposed to only apply to Trump. Yes, he's made statements about no wars and unlimited peace works and so forth, but that's not what this is about, at least not the general air of the dialogue about it. It's about the USA. The USA has always been engaged in global war, often in a direct capacity. How utterly nonsensical to say that only now does it matter. All of these other countries have been sparring and sometimes warring for ages. I mean, Africa alone has so many ongoing disputes, and any that hesitate all-out warfare stay their hand not because of an honest desire for peace, but because they fear recompense by the World Police of America and sanctions from the UN if they were to actually do any kind of serious violence. To state that the USA is responsible for greenlighting their wars is disingenuous to the extreme. To say that any war that any country begins is the fault of the USA because we did this strike on Venezuela is such an unbelievable display of weaponized sympathy that it makes the Democrats' dialogue approaching the 2024 elections seem like an honest debate by comparison. I guess I should have expected it, honestly, but it's sort of disappointing to see politicians like Bernie Sanders parroting this belief, which I first saw being spammed on Reddit after only an hour or so after the news broke. I often look to Sanders specifically to see what a pure Redditor would be like, because I kind of consider him to be sort of like an elevated Redditor. You know, without their typical maniacal, violent, and dictator-like threats and demands. I don't know, maybe I'm expecting too much from modern politicians. Swearing to foreign gods, having affairs with your friend's wife, psychoanalyzing people whilst on the news, mocking their physical appearance, making self-deprecating, openly racist comments praising immigrants merely because they're immigrants, and now blaming the USA for every other country's wars. It kind of feels like a conspiracy. Then the Democrats tell you to hate Republicans because of all the things they've done. Give me a break. Look, I won't disagree while you say what you will about Trump's hypocrisy regarding his speeches of war and peace, but the Maduro incident was about as bloodless as is feasible. So if getting things done without causing some sort of severe upheaval is a bad thing, I mean, we're supposed to be role models, right? Everyone's supposed to be looking to us. We have the authority to greenlight what other people do. I mean, that's about as good of a role model as is possible, really. If something needs to happen, better that than full-blown war, right? And what comes next can only be guessed at. And we all know it isn't altruistic in purpose, but there's no outcome I can imagine where the civilians of Venezuela are treated any worse than they currently are, or rather were yesterday, and they may well be better off. But there, too, the Democrats are attempting to fearmonger. We see Venezuelans cheering for Maduro's capture. Yes, capture, not kidnapping, as many people are inaccurately saying. And the left tells us that it's identical to what happened in the Middle East, and then points out what happened after the cheering of the Middle Easterners, that democracy had arrived. But I think there's some significant differences between Venezuela and Afghanistan. Don't you? Proximity, a lack of any ability for other nations to support Venezuelan militia due to the rainforest, and a naval blockade means there probably won't be another 20-year war. After this, I'm not even sure there will be a singular war. Plus, there's a significant amount of similarities between the USA and Venezuela compared to any Middle Eastern country in regards to language, religion, or hell, even clothing. It might have the same body, but under the hood, it's totally different. Only time will tell, and there will certainly be high tension and ill relations formed through this, but I suspect the outcome will be much cleaner than in the Iraq War. Though I'm far from an expert in economics, geopolitics, or warfare, but I think anyone with normal rationale can discern basic social truths and predict likely outcomes. As for me, it wouldn't even be slightly surprising if Venezuela became a state, if Columbia was the next target, and ultimately if the knife of freedom sliced up through Mexico, gutting the cartels. If we're going to hypothesize potential futures, well, I have a different bet. As Trump would love the glory of claiming that he stopped literally all the drugs, eradicated all of the cartels, and ended any and all border control issues with Mexico by absorbing these countries into the USA, well, this hypothetical feels far realer to me than Democrats attempting to sympathy bait with all of their claims of having, a Middle East 2.0 come from this? And moreover, claiming that the USA is guilty of every other country's war, which, again, is absurd. It's absurd that the USA is being blamed for everything other countries do, even before they do it. It's going to radicalize people further, because at this point it feels like Democrats would say that the USA doesn't even have the right to self-defense, that they would condemn protecting ourselves. I think some already see Venezuela as the strike that way. It feels like even if a terrorist attack happened, the extreme left would just quote the Bible and tell us to turn the other cheek, bringing up history lessons of 9/11 and the Iraq War and how that proves that inaction is actually the best course of action. I know I'll be called a Trump apologist for saying this, but I haven't actually said that this Venezuela business is good or bad. I don't know. I'm an American. Hollywood and social media has brainwashed me into thinking that the entirety of South America is a massive cartel empire, so it's pretty easy to think that any invasion of it would be good for the innocent citizens and for America as well. From a practical perspective, it's pretty simple to conclude that Trump is taking oil, cutting off Communist Party supply chains, and could very well box Mexico in so that they feel like a young woman alone on a boat in the middle of the ocean with Dennis Reynolds. Like, if we look at Colombia and Central America, think of the implications. Still, I'm not saying any of this is good or bad. I'm saying that the USA is being undeservedly blamed for the actions of others, even before they commit those actions, which is the weirdest part, I suppose. And not only is it unbearably obnoxious, I think it will instill indignancy in many Americans who will be emboldened by it to pursue the use of peace bombs further still. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.